Really great conversation this afternoon. I have a local Philly girl in the studio with me. Her name is Erin Elmore. Erin is an attorney. She is a political correspondent, campaign spokesperson for President-elect Donald Trump, a television host, and a previous contestant on NBC's The Apprentice. So we're going to have a lot to talk about. Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have a guest live with me in the studio. I always prefer the face-to-face chat.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is. And as we always do, I want to give the listeners a little bit of a sense of you and where you came from and kind of what led to the work that you are doing and the career path that you've taken. So I want to start with your upbringing. And I understand you grew up in McMurray, PA, which is just outside of Pittsburgh.
Yes.
The oldest of two girls.
That's right. I was actually born in Hershey, so I've been Pennsylvania pretty much through and through.
Okay, as am I.
Right.
But tell me, and you also were involved in a lot of activities growing up. Really active young lady, both in athletics and in dance. So just tell me a little bit about those years growing up, what, mom and dad did and what was it that kind of helped build the confidence that you have?
Oh gosh, so many things.
It's a big question. I know.
Well, my sister and I are 18 months apart, so we were really close and always enjoyed doing some of the same activities, but, we were always involved in book clubs and library and theater and things like that. But the one thing that now has such a horrible connotation in some circles would be beauty pageants. And we were really involved in them, but not in the toddlers and tiaras kind of way that seems like pushy with kids wearing makeup. This was my sister and I just being competitive. And it was, I don't know where that came from or why we got that out of it, but we just loved, wearing the dress and going out there and winning and talking and being on stage and performing.
Yeah.
And if I had a daughter, I'm not sure that's something that I would put her in, but it did build a lot of confidence for both my sister and myself. So very random, but it certainly laid some sort of a foundation.
Well, the public being, a performance is something that I think serves people well no matter what they do, whether
right.
they're in business or actually something where you're performing. As an older sister, would you say that you were someone that she looked up to, and did you kind of feel any need to be kind of leading her and teaching her out in the world?
Oh, absolutely. I see other people that are one of two sisters, and sometimes it's the younger sister that's more like the mom, and helping out. I'm more of that traditional older sister that was trying to guide my sister and be a good example and lead her in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, tell me your high school. What kind of school? Was that an all-girls academy? Was it a public school?
I went to a public school.
A public school. And, yeah, there's nothing harder than those years, I think, for young women, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I was popular and I was involved in cheerleading and gymnastics and dance and track. But there were moments that were hard. I think that the town that I grew up in was very nice, but it's very sanitized and very provincial. And I sort of always had bigger aspirations, and I think that might have intimidated people. So I was bullied a little bit. And, I'm just really tough and strong, and I could get through it. But I see now how people are going through that at that very formative and difficult age, and I so sympathize and empathize with that.
Yeah. I don't, we use the word bullying today. We didn't use that when we were growing up. It was just kids being mean to each other.
Right. And now that doesn't fly.
Yeah. I think, people are defending and speaking up against it, which is good. It's a good thing. Can you talk about a specific moment maybe growing up that kind of stayed with you where someone was, not so nice?
Oh, man. It was just, I was good at school and cheerleading and all that, and the older girls just didn't want any part of me being a part of what they thought they were good at, and it was intimidating to them. So whether it was saying mean things or purposely having no one for me to sit with at lunch, or, my boyfriend at the time, they would take him out because they could drive, things like that now seem like absolutely nothing when you're 15, 16 years old is literally, of course, so traumatizing.
Yeah, it's devastating.
But that's why you see what kids, these days so sad have such, whether they're bullied on social media or in the classroom, and it's something that to us seems so little, but at the time their world is that. So it really has a big impact on them.
Yeah. So you do a lot of public speaking, obviously, and you're on television and out there in the public as a spokesperson for the campaign. Do you, now as an adult, have moments where you have, self-doubt, you're a little nervous, and if so, what do you do to move through that?
Oh, yeah, well, of course. There's not a day that we don't have self-doubt. There's not a day that I don't have self-doubt. But you just have to, because I just feel like as a mom and as a wife and as someone who has a career, I want to do everything. I want to be that perfectionist, and you just can't. So you have to say, you know what? Okay, maybe these 3 things aren't going to get done today. That's okay. There's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you have to live by that, or else, there's always going to be someone that can accomplish more. There's always going to be someone that is better, or whatever it is. You know that you have to just be happy with who you are, and that's got to be enough.
Yeah. Instead of kind of trying to fool ourselves that there is any kind of perfection out there, right?
No such thing.
I was thinking about Jenna Bush, and she had made a mistake last night on the Golden Globes, and my goodness, you'd think that people had never made a mistake before. They were, all over her on social media.
It was literally
a shame.
Yeah. Well, people are tough. Social media is tough.
Yeah, it is. So you went to University of Miami and got a dual degree, communications and political science.
Yes.
Tell me what path you were looking to take at that time. What were your aspirations in selecting those degrees?
Isn't it funny how that all of these things have come full circle, and everything I got my degree in is actually kind of what I'm doing?
Yeah.
I love the idea of broadcasting, and political science to me was fascinated by politics always. So I thought if I can combine these two in some way, that would be really cool. And I graduated cum laude, so that was good. But I always knew that broadcasting was something that I loved, because I find public speaking to be a challenge and something you have to work at. And every time you do it, you learn something new and you improve yourself. And I found it to just be such a rewarding and challenging experience. But after college, I thought, you know what, I should do a little more. I'm going to go to law school. And off I went to Villanova, and that's how I ended up here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, great law school, by the way.
Great.
Tell me what was that pivotal moment when you decided? I mean, you could have really graduated and gone off and done something in communications or with your political science degree, but you decided to do law school. Was that kind of a yearning to take your education to one more level?
I mean, I absolutely love education. I think learning is never a bad thing, and I always knew that a law degree would always. It behooves you to have a law degree, whether it's negotiating a contract or buying a home and looking at, the deed and the title and your mortgage documents. Just by being a lawyer, you know how to do these things that are going to help you and set you up for life.
Yeah.
So I practiced law for a very short amount of time, and I quickly realized, okay, we've got to pivot from this a little bit.
Okay, tell me why. What was it about? Because I have numerous attorneys on the show, and I know there's a lot of things about practicing law that bring great, reward and joy, and there's a lot of challenges. So what were the things that you just felt like this is not really for me?
I just knew it wasn't my calling. I thought I really want to go back to the broadcasting world. I do. So
being more engaging with people.
Billing hours and being in an office and not really talking to people and engaging that much is something that was very difficult for me. I need a little more human interaction.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the moment that you decided to apply as a contestant on The Apprentice. Can you tell me kind of where you were and how that all came to be?
I was working at said law firm, and a bunch of my friends said, hey, there's a tryout for The Apprentice in town. You should go. No. Finally, I said, fine, I will go stand in line. I think it was at the Lowe's Hotel. Line swarmed.
In Philadelphia?
Yeah, right here in Philadelphia. The line was around the block, and I think I was near the end, almost near the cutoff. And something came over me that day that just being around these people, and I'm like, I knew I could do it. I for some reason, I knew I was going to be on the show. And I don't usually have feelings like that very often. So it worked out. And that was, take yourself back in time. This was what, 2006? This is when The Apprentice was the #1 show on television. Everyone was talking about it.
Was it season 3?
Season 3, Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Yeah.
And everyone was watching it. Everyone was talking about it. It was the #1 rated show on television. It was the thing to watch.
Yeah.
I think something like 2 million people tried out.
Was that prior to the launch of Shark Tank?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's
but
what I
same
thought.
production company.
Is that right?
Mark Burnett
yeah,
Productions.
Similar type of,
Yeah.
I love those shows.
Yeah, well,
Love
Survivor,
those shows.
Apprentice, the boxing show, The Contender, and Shark Tank are all Mark Burnett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, what did you learn, in reference to business and entrepreneurship from doing that show?
I mean, first of all,
because all different things were thrown at you.
So many different things. And it was a wild experience.
I bet.
Very, very, very stressful. You would do a quote unquote task, And it looks like that's a week, that's 1 week of a show, but it's really compounded into 3 days. So you're working, and there was no time off. There was no downtime. You're living in the same space with these people as well.
Yeah, are you in Trump Tower?
We were, yeah.
Okay.
It's funny, I was there for a campaign event, and our suite that we lived in is now some of the campaign office space.
Oh, is that right?
And it looked so different, but I'd love to see it come full circle.
Yeah.
Right. But no, I worked with some of the smartest and most powerful CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs in the world.
And these were not celebrities at the time, which
No.
to tell you the truth, I actually enjoyed it more when it was just your everyday person coming on and trying, competing in that way. And then it got to be more celebrities. But so go ahead. You were.
Yeah. So I not even just the contestants that I was on with it. They were all amazing in and of themselves, but the people that they paired us with on each task, it was CEOs and just great people that you wanted to absorb everything and learn from them because they were business leaders, Fortune 500 company leaders.
Right.
So it was just an awesome experience.
Yeah. And you were working long hours, right? So in those couple of days, you're working
nonstop.
12, 13, 14 hours
if
a
not
day.
more. Yeah. There was no sleep going on.
Yeah. How did you deal with the no sleep? That's something, how do you keep fresh with the thought and ideas?
I don't know. I think you just power through.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, absolutely adrenaline. It was really tough.
And when you made that decision to do that, was there something in your mind you thought, if I get on this show, this is either going to be a jump start for me in media, or I'll get to really learn about business, or what was your thought process in doing it?
I saw no downside. I was also young, so,
fearless.
Ignorance is bliss.
Right.
So I just thought this kid is only up from here. I get to hang with Donald Trump, and so I just knew that something good was going to come out of it for me. And right afterwards, I got a job as a television reporter at NBC in Jacksonville, Florida, and there I went.
And was that a direct result of being on the show?
100%.
Okay.
I was doing a speaking thing with other contestants down in Jacksonville and met some of the local television producers, and I said, I see you have a vacancy. They told me someone just left. I said, I'll take that job.
Yeah.
They said, you're not from here. Can you move here? I said, I'll be here tomorrow.
And you just went?
Literally.
Yeah. And were you married at the time?
No.
Okay.
I was different lifestyle.
Yeah, you had the freedom to just kind of drop things and go where you needed to be. Yeah.
Little more difficult now.
Well, you know what? Yeah, you're a mom. We'll mention that. You have a little boy. He's 4.
Almost 4, yeah.
Yeah. And one of the questions I mentioned to you, before we came on air that I wanted to ask you was about, obviously, as a spokesperson for President-elect Donald Trump's campaign, you're in support of him, and you were aligned with what he wants to do for the country. I wanted to know, from a mom standpoint, what you hope you'll see change in our country for your son, Royce.
Right. Well, there's a little bit of a backstory. I have never been a Republican in my life. I was always Democrat. And this all started by the news networks who I had a relationship with. It's CNN, Fox Business, MSNBC in New York. They would ask me questions about my time on The Apprentice and how I thought Donald Trump had treated me as a woman and as a person. And I would just tell the truth. He was amazing to me. He wrote me letters of recommendation. He advanced my career. He's a good person. He has great business acumen. And eventually I did such a good job on the networks, they started asking me pretty detailed political questions. And I was able to answer them and really start to formulate how I thought and how I wanted to see our country evolve and how I wanted to see life for my son going forward. And, and it's ironic that this has all happened. It's sort of life hands you something and, it's a whole nother path for your life. But I just want my son to see you have to work hard. I think the days of participation trophies should be over. I don't want him to show up at a job and say, okay, just because I showed up, I deserve a promotion. I want you to know you have to work hard. You have to make your own way. Nothing is going to be handed to you. And I think that's what I see in Donald Trump and his children, quite frankly.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for that hard work.
Absolutely.
It's one of the greatest lessons. So it's interesting. It sounds like it was almost kind of, I'm not going to say an aha moment, but it was, you were able to reflect and realize that maybe your views were a little bit more, we always talk about right and left in the country. And I think most people are somewhere in between.
Statistically speaking, that's the truth. There's fringes on both sides, and most people's their views are very closely related.
We're able to form an opinion and make a decision based on something that's in front of us, not just kind of standard. Right?
Yeah, most of us don't stand that far apart, really.
Yeah, but was there a little bit of a moment where you thought, gosh, I think my views are a little bit more towards the right as far as, what we know to be left or right?
Well, I think Peter Thiel at the convention said something really powerful, and that was like, we have bigger fish to fry right now than worrying about and he's a gay man from Silicon Valley, very well respected. And he basically said, we don't need to be worrying about which bathroom we're using. We have real problems in our country. I'm gay. Let's support gay rights. Let's support transgender rights. Let's focus on fixing our country. And the social issues, I am quite liberal on. But I think that we have to fix it. Right now, I think let's just make sure everyone has their rights. Everyone's protected. Treat everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of the color of their skin, their ethnicity, their race, their country of origin. And let's focus on the real issues that are plaguing our country, whether it's poverty, healthcare, job formation, national security, international security. Those are the issues that matter.
Yeah. I think you can be very much focused and interested in social issues and believe that things need to be done a certain way, and also just kind of have, conservative values and want to see, the best for the country. Let's talk about women's role in that. When we think about the violence, that's just one area where, there's a lot to be fearful of today. And if we think about women and their role in fighting against violence globally, how do you see that? How do you see that role? Because historically, women have never been certainly in charge in the military or, just in areas that are based around security. What do you think women can do to contribute to helping the world with regard to violence?
I mean, that's such a big question.
It is a big question. I know.
I just think of raising your children. I think of my son and how I would want him to be raised and how I want him to view violence. And has to start in the home. And then I think as we get older, we just all have to have an active role in helping our communities and helping those less fortunate than ourselves. And I think some of it is unavoidable. I think the very sad situation of Fort Lauderdale, a lot of that was our system failed him. I really do. But I think women just have to be a part of the conversation and be a big part of it.
Do you see that women have gifts that are different from men, that we can contribute in a bigger way, a different way?
I mean, I would hope so. I think that we are different. Some people try to say that men and women don't have those fundamental. I see us as very different. Mm-hmm. But I think that women just have to have a voice and have their voice be heard. And whether it's helping the community, the gentleman in Fort Lauderdale, he went into, I don't know, one of his military places and said, their voice is controlling me. Someone there should have done something and should have said something. And I think women have that sort of innate understanding of human beings. I wish someone was there to say that for him.
Yeah, the intuition.
Intuition,
I think, is one of the key things that women have, that, can help in all situations.
So true.
Yeah. Tell me what you think when we think about young women today, and something we talk about on the show all the time is social media. Mm-hmm. What goes on out there. Everyone is so judgmental. Mm-hmm. People are judging everyone but themselves, right? And they're looking at everyone. And I think it's hard for young women to be independent thinkers and form their own opinions. And for young men, too. It's not just women. What are some ways that we can help battle against that, this distraction that's out there, and really encourage young women to be more thoughtful and think critically and form their own opinions?
We spoke about this a little earlier, but I think the social media element of it has made it really hard. There's so much noise and there's so much chatter. It's almost like we have to go back to basics, turn off the technology for a minute, go out into the world, try to make connections, network with other women, find a role model, find a mentor. I think those connections are really important for young women because the workplace can be such an intimidating place when you're 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. You're trying to forge your way. You're so young. To have someone a little bit older and wiser than you is always a great place to start.
Yeah. You know what? Has there been somebody in your life that is kind of your go-to person, a mentor that, lifts you up when you need that?
I have so many in different areas. There's different people that I think have really helped guide me. And whether it's, there was an attorney that I lost track of her, which is really sad, but she was a really big inspiration to me when I just got out of law school and helped me stay calm and try to stay focused and forge my path. But she was really a big help.
Was there a bit of advice that she gave you that kind of sticks with you?
She said, this is going to be twice as hard as a woman. You want to have a family and be a mother and a wife. You're just going to have to do twice as good of a job. And the good thing about women is that's what we're capable of, and that's what we do. So you'll be just like the rest of it. We can all do it.
Yeah. So what is your typical day? That's not a creative question, but, when you have your hands in so many different directions, what is a typical day for you, and how do you manage kind of the influx of requests?
Every day is so different, especially living in the world of television and breaking news. I'll be asked to go on CNN or Fox Business at the drop of a hat. Hey, we need you in New York in 3 hours. So that's crazy. And luckily I have a very supportive husband who will help me shuttle my son around and our son around and help us figure that. So there's no typical day. It basically depends upon the news cycle. So if there's something crazy going on, I'm on a train to New York. I'm getting home at 1 a.m. And I also have my side job, which has been my consistent job over the last 7 years. I've been a television host at QVC, right, which is here in Philadelphia for 7 years now. And that job is we could take an hour just talking about QVC. It's an amazing place to work. But people watch QVC 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They're on air all the time. So I'll be there. Last night, for example, I was there from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m.
You were?
Uh-huh.
And look at you, you look so fresh and awake here today. Okay, what's your secret there, really? Sleep is so critical for me.
Again, my husband, he said, I'll take our son to school this morning and you just sleep a little. But yeah. I got home at 4:30 in the morning. And after you're on television or on the radio, it's not that easy to wind down.
Right.
You're amped up. You're counting the clock. You're seeing what's going on. You're waiting for a commercial break. It's just very stressful.
Yeah,
so you don't just go home and crash.
Right.
So every day I could be working at 3 a.m. I could be working at 9 a.m. I could be doing nothing for a day and then getting all of my errands done that I've neglected all week. It's all about triaging, I think. Okay.
That's a good word, yeah.
Yeah, let's prioritize and triage, and I think that's all you can do.
Right. So what do you do because you're right, that, media, you're keyed up. You want to have high energy, and what do you do to wind down and relax?
I love to exercise. I'm a huge endorphin junkie.
Yeah.
Any kind of exercise on any kind of nasty apparatus that these teachers put us on these days, these Pilates machines and these yoga mats.
Sometimes that can key you up, though.
It does, but it helps release the stress. So I'm a big fan of exercise. I try to exercise for at least an hour every day, if not 2.
Yeah.
No matter what time it is. If I have to get up at 4 a.m, I'll do it.
Wow. You're disciplined.
I guess.
Yeah, really. You seem very disciplined. I mean, you're doing the things you need to do. Where do you think that comes from? I keep coming back to that.
I don't know.
So sometimes I think people's drive is just in their DNA. They were born that way. And other times I think there's something that drives us, that we're either trying to prove something, or we're excited by challenge, or we just, we get keyed up for new opportunities. Is there something you can pinpoint?
Oh gosh, it's so difficult. I mean, I do think I just love the challenge. I make everything a challenge, though. Whether it's a spinning class that you want to be the number one.
A competition? Or yeah.
So maybe it's that. I just love a challenge. I love doing something that I'm a little bit afraid of, to push myself to the limit.
And getting that feeling kind of adrenaline when you're doing it.
I think that's the theme.
When you were on QVC last night, was that a last minute call in and
I knew
talk about
this
a product? Or
this was a product, but I knew about this one. This was on the schedule for about a week. But that's not always the case. I'll get a text message or I'll get a call. Hey, we need you to come in. Sometimes it'll be a snowstorm and they'll say, hey, can you fill some time? We know you're kind of local.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. Right? And then there you are.
Do you have a piece of advice for anyone who's listening, a young budding, a woman who wants to get into media? Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that can kind of create the opportunities? Because it really is often about an opportunity that propels you into some kind of position in media.
You got to cut your teeth somewhere. Start at the bottom, work really, really hard. And I would say The Apprentice is the anomaly with reality shows. It's a business show. No one's there because they're pretty or getting a rose or meeting a guy. So The Apprentice was a really ideal situation because I was there because of business acumen. But now reality TV is so, whether it's a housewife or a bachelor, a lot of people think reality TV is going to be their launching pad. I would say stay away from reality TV unless it's a business show and go cut your teeth, whether it's being an intern at a radio station. Just get your foot in the door and make connections, because sometimes it is about who you know and who you meet along the way. Because people, if you're working hard and eager to learn, people are willing to help you. Generally, humans are good.
Yeah.
And along the way, people are willing to help you.
Yeah, I agree. When we talk about networking, sometimes young people, I don't think, understand the importance of it or really what it is. It's just about putting yourself out there and forming relationships,
Absolutely.
Genuine relationships.
Right.
Talk about networking a little bit and what your philosophy was about it, I guess.
Somehow I think that's in my DNA, that I'm just I just excel at that. I like to be a value add, though. You know, some people are always asking and asking and asking and taking, and that can be very fatiguing. But you want to be someone who's also a value add. What can I do for you? How can I help you? And that's always been something I've done and continue to do to this day. Because then you're seen as, it's a symbiotic relationship, and you're helping each other to get ahead. And I think that's the best way to do it, because you're a value.
That's exactly right. And that person is going to think of you, you know, down the road when another opportunity arises.
Yes. And my husband's also a prolific networker too, so we work together on that a lot. But it's also, I also say, save the ask. If you know, don't ask, save your favor for something really important.
That's great advice.
I mean that.
That's great advice.
Because if you need something big and you just ask for something little, you know, just manage your asks.
Let's talk about that. The ask is something so important in any career. We really, and again, I think women in particular struggle with the ask because we're naturally wanting to help. We're nurturers. We're collaborative. Let's bring everybody in and make sure everybody's a part of this. Some tips on how you make that ask, you know, and feeling confident in it, asking for something that you know you deserve.
Right. I think it can be really hard. You have to build up the courage, because even I struggle with that, whether it's writing the right email or making the right phone call. You know, I think just highlight what you've done. You know, I know we've done this and this and this together, and here's what I want, and here's why, and here's how we can work together to get it. And that's what I usually do. Yeah. And sometimes if I've done a favor for that person or something, I'd say, hey, I hope it worked out when I introduced you to so-and-so. I spoke to them and they said you guys had a great meeting. So it's something like reminding them in a gentle and subtle and kind way what you've done for them too. Yeah, that's a good point. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk about, you know, what your thoughts are moving forward, you know, what your goals are and where you think you're headed. We'll be right back. Week of Women to Watch here on WWDB Talk 860 and WomenToWatch.net. I have with me in the studio this afternoon Erin Elmore. She is an attorney. She is a political correspondent. She was the campaign spokesperson for President-elect Donald Trump. She's a television host and often on QVC. We'll give a shout out to QVC. And also a previous contestant on NBC's The Apprentice. So I want to talk about your, you know, some of the media, television spots that you've done across the board, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, all of them. There's often controversy that arises for anyone that speaks publicly, you know, and becomes a public figure. People are going to have opinions about what you said, about who they think you are. So I'd love for you to talk for a few minutes. What advice do you have for anyone who's pursuing a career in media and how to handle that controversy? And did you have any instances where, you know, someone spoke out against you personally, and how did you deal with that? Well, you can't, you know, it's almost like again, back to social media. Don't read the bad things and don't read the good things. Just don't read any of them, because if you're reading all of the good things, you're going to think you're this amazingly wonderful, untouchable person. Right. If you're reading all the bad things, you're going to be really sad and dour. So don't read any of it, and have true friends. I have really, really a good network of friends and a good support group around me that will help set me straight if I need to be set straight. My husband always watches my material, and he gave me a lot of good feedback. Say, hey, when someone says this, don't make this facial expression. Just you just learn different techniques and how to handle things along the way. But my true friends, whatever side of the political spectrum they fell upon, they remain friends with me because they know who I am as a person, and they're proud of my accomplishments. But there were times when certain people felt very strongly about their political views, and maybe we didn't speak for a while, or just because we couldn't talk about it amicably. I can certainly, but some people can't. So you just know, give people time. Don't be in their face. Just give it a little bit of space. Space and time is good sometimes. Yeah, and the ability to kind of not react emotionally, right? How do you do that? In other words, I think we're all a correspondent on television, and you're really not supposed to be emotional. Right. Well, as Allen Iverson says, practice. I just had to practice. You get better with time. And the other thing is when I'm doing this for a living, so I know my points, counterpoints, arguments, and what people are going to say, and how I can, you know, basically combat those arguments. So if I have a conversation with a lay person about it, I have all of my information. I'm armed with an arsenal of information, so they can't really say too much back. Yeah. Well, you know the truth, right? Right. And it's my job to make points and counterpoints against the opposing side, so I'm pretty armed with information. Yeah. But I had sat down with a really smart, intelligent, successful woman who fell on the other side, and we just had a conversation about it like two adults, and we said, help me understand, no, help me understand. And it was beautiful and lovely and fun and nice. And we shared a glass of wine too, so what's so bad about that?
Yeah, I love that. That's one of my favorite things to encourage people to say more is, help me understand. Help me understand your view and your side. What was one of my questions for you is, what are some actionable things we can do to really bring women in particular who are on either side of the political spectrum together to have the conversations without judgment, to really try to understand people's views?
Right. Well, I mean, I would say, first of all, equal pay for equal work is not a political issue. Paid leave for maternity and childcare is not a partisan issue.
Right.
So I think we have to come together to address the issues that are really important to working women and women with families or women that work inside the home or outside of the home. I know it's really hard. I could never have a 9-to-5 traditional job, given the fact that I have to shuttle the child back and forth to school and, make lunches and do all of these things, and to balance it all and see these women that are doing all of those things. It is the hardest job in the world. And I think if we work together, regardless of our political feelings, we're going to accomplish so much more. I had a boss that was amazing, and she was so tough. She used to say, like, that women-on-woman crime is the biggest epidemic. But it's true, right? Right. I really saw that as partially true. So working together is key. Don't fight each other. Don't pull that ladder up, the corporate ladder up with you. Help other women up it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have, so many resources today to do just that. I'd love to know your views on, when we talk about, there's a lot of organizations and platforms now. We have Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, and we have Arianna Huffington's Thrive. We have women who are giving TED Talks that are kind of about women's empowerment and all of that good stuff. We didn't have that growing up, and it probably was more so when you were than I was. I think there's a big difference now that the messaging to young women is, my goodness, don't hold back. You have just as much abilities as men to contribute from an intellectual standpoint. There's no argument that we're different, physiologically. We are. Where do you see there being more of an impact when, again, we want to be helping each other and supporting each other, but there's a lot of different subjects that need attention. When you talk about, medicine and politics and, business and entrepreneurship, do you see the panel events and the discussions where we're highlighting women who've done it right as a good way to do it? Is it to put more books out on tips and, advice, or what do you think is going to have the most impact in a real way?
All of the above. I think there's not a magic silver bullet here. I think we have to do everything. And I think it's something that we all have to work together and help the younger generation to help them and help them understand, and also understand the struggles that we've gone through, and, making sure that it's not just about, social media. It's about going out into the world and seeing other people, see what they do, see how they live, and having a better understanding face to face. Yeah.
Is there a particular cause that you're interested in, that you are doing any work with, any type of charity or organization?
Well, I mean, right now I'm focusing a lot of I worked with Ivanka Trump across the state of Pennsylvania on a lot of her women's issues, and I look forward to forging that path going forward a little bit more with her. And she's really a big advocate of her father's programs for women's advancement.
Yeah.
So whether it's, tax credits for women who are working inside the home, or childcare, or things like that. And I think those are so, so, so important.
You've done multiple interviews with her. Is there any insight or something you can share with us that you took away from her personally that maybe people wouldn't know?
Well, Ivanka Trump is such a poised and elegant and intelligent woman that she's just such a great role model for no matter what your political views are. She was just so great to work with, and she was so intelligent and passionate, and she doesn't consider herself to be a very political person at all. And she just has really drilled down into helping women and helping women with families, and what can I really do to better the world for my children. And that to me was just so amazing to watch and to see, and to spend time with someone that amazing.
And yes, she's so professional.
She's
really
great.
Is. Are you able to share kind of where her interests are going to lie, once he's elected and becomes president?
She's doing childcare, elder care, tax reform, and also with the environment. So she's going to have an important role. And her husband's a bright guy, too, so he just got appointed today.
He did. I saw that.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be a family affair.
Right. And look, I've talked a lot about his children, all of them. You see a lot of children of billionaires that are in the tabloids, stumbling out of nightclubs with mugshots. You don't see that with these people. You don't see that with the Trumps. They're all hardworking kids with charitable foundations, with jobs, with great families, with great kids, doing great things for our country. So he must have done something right in raising those kids.
Yeah, well, you've had personal contact with them, and I was curious about what you saw and what you thought. How was he able to do that with his children? And of course, their mothers were involved in their lives as well. They don't often get, some credit. They're there, but it is tough to be in the spotlight, to have that kind of wealth and really come out and be okay. What do you think the key was there?
I'm sure I know for at least the older children, Ivana Trump was their mother. Look at her work ethic. Look at Donald Trump's work. I think they saw two parents with really strong work ethics that were both really intelligent. And they just, you emulate that behavior, accept nothing less.
Yeah, again, it's just, the way you were raised with this work ethic. Working hard really pays off in a big way.
Yeah, parents can't let their kids slide by. It's all about parenting, too. It's what you expect and demand of your children.
Yeah. So you've done a lot in media, in politics. Do you have a preference to where you're going to be headed? Do you have any political aspirations of your own?
Oh, geez. People ask me that all the time. It's always a possibility. It really is. It's something that I would love to do. I think public service is a tremendously important job, and I feel that our system has now shifted a lot with someone that didn't have the idea of a career politician is kind of a horrible idea. And that wasn't what our founding fathers wanted for this country. That's not who they were. They would come, do a few things in Washington, fix things, and go back to their farming and their banking and things of that nature. We had people that had real life skills that were actual business owners, entrepreneurs, various walks of life. But now we have this culture of like the career politician. And I think that's why things have become so stagnant. And that's why Donald Trump is that breath of fresh air in a broken system. And I would love to also be sort of something like that, because I think change is really, really necessary. Our governments are so bloated, and we're not getting projects done on time and in debt. And I think something should really change. And corruption scares me too. So I think that it's something about changing that norm and shifting that paradigm even further on the local level. And I would love to get involved.
Yeah, I was going to ask you on the local level, what kinds of things do you think you can do, or any woman who's in the community, let's say, who really hasn't had any type of background in politics, can do to try to make a difference?
I live in Philadelphia County, which is traditionally very, 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 very Democratic. So I'm starting to meet with some of my friends who are in that world and in that realm. And I'm just going to start having those conversations and seeing where they lead. I know a few senators and things of that nature. So I have a few meetings set up, and I'm just going to see what happens next.
That's a great idea. I mean, I
want to talk to everyone.
I respect that about you, your openness to really always be seeing other points of view. It's I think that's something that really has been part of the problem in kind of keeping things stagnant, is people with opinions are staying on either side and they're not coming together. I mean, it's kind of oversaid, but collaborating and diversity has got to be a priority.
We have to work together, or else nothing is going to get accomplished. Have to.
Let's talk about women and their role in politics in general. I think we want to see more women with, political positions where they have influence greater than we've had before. Do you, when you're talking to women, colleagues, friends, your sister, do you have these conversations where you encourage the women that to really kind of step out of their comfort zone and speak up? You have been, as I said, independent. You have a lot of confidence. You're outspoken. You're opinionated without being a kind of narrow-minded. Do you have these conversations with the women in your life, and are you encouraging them to kind of step out and do those? Speak up as well, I'll say.
Well, birds of a feather sort of flock together. All of my female girlfriends in their own rights they're all so intelligent, and they all have these great careers and fantastic points of view. And so we sort of inspire and motivate each other. I have a friend that's a vice president at Goldman Sachs in New York. I have a friend that's a vice president of a pharmaceutical company. So I have friends that are doing amazing things, and I just am fascinated by how different their jobs are than mine, that I just take from them and get inspired by them, and they say they get inspired by me. So I think it's surrounding yourself. They say one bad apple can spoil the bunch. Surround yourself by people that you would like to emulate. Surround yourself by people that inspire you. And then you're inspired every day.
Yeah. So you already, your circle of women are already doing it.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
They're already out
great.
there doing it. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Tell me what keeps you up at night. What do you worry about? What is something that, you fear? I don't think any of us live life without fear. We don't have it together every moment of every day.
It's different every night, right? There's every new day.
Depends on what your son did that day.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's all about my son, really, right? It's just what the world's going to be like for him, and what does he need to be successful, and how am I going to achieve the goals to make him successful? So it's really, it depends on the day and what that day has brought. And I have a new stress. There's something new pops up all the time.
Yeah.
I don't have this one thing, but I just want him to grow up in a safe world that, he's got opportunities and can work really hard and be a success. And he's only 3.5, almost 4, so I can't really worry that much yet. But you have to.
Well, we do. As parents, we worry about the future for our kids. And I think with technology and the internet, it's a whole new ball game. And there's so many great things about it that help us connect to people on a global scale, which I love. That's so cool. But there's a lot of scary sides to that because we know that our children are going to be exposed to things that maybe we wouldn't want them to be. Do you worry about that?
Of course.
Yeah.
And now the internet and the information, whatever app you're reading or whatever website there's so much information, you almost can't even find what's true and what's not sometimes.
That's right. Well, we're talking about the fake news today. What do you think about that? I mean, how do we decipher? How do we determine? It takes a lot of digging.
It takes a lot of digging. It takes a lot, and finding reliable sources. And a lot of untruths are perpetuated by the mainstream media on both sides. So you have to be really, really careful.
Would you say it's best to kind of stick with a news outlet and rather than be jumping all over and getting overwhelmed by all of the different facts that are out there, kind of stick with one that you like on both sides? I don't mean, something that always gives one side of a story, to get your daily news.
I think it behooves us to keep an eye on everything because then you know what one side is saying and what the other side is saying, and comparing and contrasting information. I think knowledge is power. So then you can see what people on both sides are saying. But as soon as you know what sources are reliable and unbiased, and I think you stick with those. But I think it behooves us all to read everything. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot out there. But I think when it comes to media in general, I really want to try to help, again, women to be able to form opinions and be independent thinkers on all of the topics. And it's hard not to kind of get sucked into where they see the masses going.
Right. And academia even can be a tricky thing. I just did a panel discussion over at Drexel, and what I found is a lot of teachers and a lot of professors have certain viewpoints that they're politically minded or what, it's hard because academia is generally pretty liberal, and that can be hard too because then, your teachers are shaping your points of view, and that can be really hard too. So I think it's learning to form your own opinions, read things outside of recommended coursework, and start to form your own opinions and realize why you feel a certain way. I remember there was a big Bernie Sanders protest, and a lot of the people that were protesting weren't even registered to vote. I mean, which is such an easy thing to do online. Yeah. And to me, that's almost just as scary. So you want a voice, but the younger generation, you want to have your voice, but then you don't want to have to do any of the work to back it up. Yeah. You have to educate yourself. You have to be knowledgeable. You have to know what's going on. And actually that, life's so much more exciting when you're doing that, right? Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've always been someone who wants to be in the loop and know, what's going on. And yeah, it makes life more exciting. Do you ever think about writing a book? Is that something on your bucket list? I think I want to write a children's book, maybe. Really? Yeah. I mean, a lot less controversial. I mean, because I love humor, and my son is so funny, and the things that he says, I'm just like, this is a great book. He likes to be called Sandwich. It's like, Mom, where do sandwiches live? I don't know, because my husband likes sandwiches. So I want to write any particular sandwich? The 9th Street pork I'm sure they'll eat any of them, but so Mom, where do sandwiches come from? And what do sandwiches eat? And so, to me, there's got to be a kid's book in there called "What do sandwiches eat?" Yeah, don't steal my idea. You got the title, right? What do sandwiches eat? Because I didn't have, as a parent, you like to have answers. I don't have an answer for that one.
Yeah.
Pickles, maybe? So that's all I can think about lately.
You know what? I love that about, we're only just getting to know each other. And I could tell the first time we met that you had this sense of humor, in you, and outside of a lot of serious issues that we talk about. I think it's so important.
You have to giggle.
You have to laugh, or we'll be crying, right?
Oh yeah, I have to.
Tell me what are some of your favorite books? Have you read some books that you feel like you could recommend to our listening audience of women that are trying to be better and do better and get more involved?
This is a random one, but it's a classic and it's one of my favorites, and I've read it a couple of times. It's Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh.
My grandfather gave it to me in high school, and it's been updated and revamped so many times, but it's such a powerful book on how to exist in the world and how to treat people with respect, and I love it. And also a totally different realm, not an inspirational motivational book, but I love Confederacy of Dunces, which is fiction, and it's
I gotta write that one down.
But you gotta get through it. A friend of mine who's a big literary genius recommended it in law school. And I struggled through it. And then I got to the last page and read the ending, and it became my favorite book. But I struggled through every single other page.
Is that right? Why?
I don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
But but it's the greatest book of all time.
Are you a good reader? Because talk about law school.
I read quickly.
Do you read quickly and you absorb
as much as I can,
retain the knowledge?
But I also advise people that are maybe in college age. I went to class. To me, if you go to class and pay attention, you're going to be a better student. To me, I guess that's not that prolific of a profound rather thing to say, but go to class, show up.
Yeah.
That helped me.
Gosh, that's such simple advice and such
but
good
so
advice.
many people don't.
Yeah. Now,
so the book alone isn't enough. If you go and hear what the teacher's interpretation is, then,
Were you going to class because you were genuinely interested and wanting to learn, or were you going again for that, I want to get that A. I want to do the best I can possibly do in class?
Both. I really think it was, I had that dangling carrot of grades and success in front of me, but I also knew that I was going to go and I was going to learn and I was going to enjoy it. So, and the combination of the two is like the perfect combination.
Do you think you'd ever go back to school and do any additional education for any reason?
I would love, I don't know what it would even be, but I love learning and I love school. It would probably be so fun, right? Now as an adult.
Right.
So fun.
Right, it would be so much more fun. I say that all the time. If I had known what I, know today.
Oh my goodness.
When I think back to school, I was easily distracted by things.
Of course.
And now I just want to absorb as much as I can.
Exactly. So I don't have any immediate plans, but you never know, right?
You never know. You have to, I just said to my daughter this morning, keep your head up and your eyes open and opportunities will come.
Yes, it's true.
So you were born and raised in Pennsylvania, came to Philadelphia, but you spent a lot of time in Florida. Is that right?
Well, my parents live in Jupiter, which is near Palm Beach, and, just having so many friends from going to the University of Miami, I spend a lot of time in Florida.
Yeah. Do you think you're settled here in the Philadelphia area?
My husband is the CEO of a company based in Philadelphia.
Okay.
So we are here, and my son is going to be going to school here on the main line next year. So we are here and pretty settled, and I've been in Philadelphia for 17 years now. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I see
it's a good place to live.
I love it.
Look,
you're close to the beach, you're close to the mountains, you're close to New York, you're close to DC. It's really the best of all worlds.
Yeah. Tell me, I want you to we just have a couple of minutes left, and I always ask my guests to leave the listeners with some advice. I mean, when I look at you and I've read, did my homework on your background and know what you have accomplished, you're really one of the most confident women I think I've ever met.
Oh, wow.
And I think we all want to have that confidence. We all want to have the ability to speak out, speak up, and give opinions and have conviction. Mm-hmm. Conviction is something I think people struggle with. Mm-hmm. And we should all strive to have more conviction in our beliefs. So if someone's listening and they're really kind of, they just don't have that, what could you say to them to help them to write that book, ask for that raise, start that new business they've been thinking about? really get over that stuck place.
Right. Well, just know that you're not going to be the best version of Ariana Huffington. You're going to be. You're not going to be the best version of Hillary Clinton. You have to be the best version of you. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Don't look at their accomplishments. Only look at their accomplishments to inspire you. Just dig deep within yourself, and it's in there. It really is. Whether it takes that few days of meditation and thinking it through, but you have to. It only is going to come within you. It can't come from, it's not going to be an external force. It's going to come from something within you. So don't compare yourself to the other mom on the block or the, other person you read about in the tabloids or in the newspaper or something like that. It's within you. It's all about you.
I love that because it's not something that someone's going to say to you. I'm asking you to give advice, but yet it's so true that if you focus on the original person that you are, that's really where all the power is, right? Because it's different from anybody else.
Yeah.
One of the things I think young women do is they kind of look around, right, to see what everybody else is doing before they decide what their path is.
You have to just figure out your own path. It's not going to be the same. I could look around at the other women that are in my position doing, whether it's political work or television, and I can say, wow, she's been doing this for 3 times longer than I have, or wow, she has better connections or, more education or went to Harvard or something.
Yeah.
You just say, okay, that's not me.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Right.
And I'm going to do the best with with my body of work.
Yeah, no, that's true. And some of the, women who are the most, if we'll say, successful in their careers have come from very, very modest beginnings or tough places, overcome some adversities in their life, and they've still managed to do that. And I think that, you said meditate. Do you meditate? Because that's, something very popular in our culture today.
It is. I am not good with silence or without a distraction, so I've tried.
I'm trying to picture you just kind of relaxed and meditating.
I'm not very good. I'm not good at it. I do yoga every once in a while.
Do you?
Yes. I try to meditate, but I like the busy bustle too much.
But do you take that minute to reflect every once in a while?
When I wake up, I get up 10 minutes before the rest of my house, and I just do me for 5-10 minutes.
That's awesome. Listen, I thank you so much for joining me. This was fun. We covered a lot of topics.
So fun.
We'll be staying in touch and following you and seeing what you're going to do next.
Great, I love that.
And why don't you give your website for our listeners if somebody